Okay. Now, as you can read here, this is an article about mitochondria, structure, function, and clinical relevance. However, it's not. You already read a little bit more. You can see the article is a gag article. The idea behind this was that this person, and their name here is Neuroskeptic, they're a blogger, an anonymous one, and they took this article, wrote it up. It's completely ridiculous. But what it's supposed to do is it shows that journals which accept scientific articles don't always do this under the noblest of intentions. In this case, there are 4 different journals. They're not all listed here. I believe this is one of them. They claim to be scientific journals, but they accepted this work, looked at it, reviewed it, probably not, published it online, and had to later issue a retraction because it is so obviously a joke that missing it is ridiculous and beyond excuse. There's no reason this should have ever been allowed to be published. But it did get published. It has a 90% like ratio. There's 14,000 views, and it's 3 pages. And it is hilarious. I'm trying not to read it as much as possible so I can get a proper reaction. Because my discipline is molecular biology and biochemistry. So, to me, this will be much funnier than someone who just comes in and doesn't know what's happening. But some of the stuff I'm very excited to read. And it says here, it's a Star Wars-based spoof scientific paper, accepted and published by a number of predatory journals. Highlight the predatory part. But that's not what was published. This is what was published below. You're going to see some of the issues as we get into it. I don't think I like this. Yeah, this will be nice and big for everyone to see. This is the Austin Journal of Pharmacology and Therapeutics. You can see the Austin Publishing Group. This is a real thing, and they published this. Now, let's read some of the basic stuff. It's a research article, Mitochondria, Structure, Function, and Clinical Relevance. So all we're talking here about is the mitochondria, which is an organelle, an organ of a cell, which generates a lot of ATP, which is called power, to make it easy for people to understand. You use ATP as energy in your body. Thus, it's very important in your cell. It has to function properly. They're describing how it looks, its function, and then clinical relevance, anybody who might have diseases, any way to help it in the future. There's also mitochondrial DNA. There are mitochondrial DNA diseases which result from that, unfortunately. But they go on to describe it a little bit. In the abstract here, the mitochondrion, that's the singular form, mitochondria is plural, is a double membrane-bound organelle found in the cells of all eukaryotes and is responsible for most of the cell supply of adenosine triphosphate, which is ATP. As the central powerhouse of the cell, mitochondria, also referred to as midichlorians. Right away, no. Midichlorians are the made-up microscopic organisms which live inside people and give them force powers from Star Wars. Right away, it's a red flag. These serve a vital function. They have been implicated in numerous human diseases, which they have been, that's true, including midichlorian disorders, again, that's not true, heart disease and circulatory failure, and autism. In this paper, the structure and function of the midichlorian is reviewed with a view to understanding how the pathophysiology of midichlorian disorders can point the way towards translational treatments. The keywords are cell biology, mtDNA, translational novel therapeutics, and midichlorian disorders. So it's a cute little joke that popped up in the very beginning of the abstract, but they didn't get into describing it yet. That's the key part. And notice, by the way, who did this. It's the Department of Medical Cell Biology at the University of Saskatchewan in Canada. The corresponding author is Lucas McGeorge. Okay, another cute joke they threw in here. The Department of Medical Cell Biology at the University of Saskatchewan, 105 Administration Place. It could be a place, but that's just ridiculous. In Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. I cannot believe these names exist. This is in 2017. And here is where we're going to go into some of the interesting stuff. The midichlorian, or midichlorians, there's two membrane-bearing organelle found in cells. That's pretty straightforward. He puts in some information about mitochondria to make this article more realistic, but occasionally puts in other stuff. The midichlorian itself has a genome that shows substantial force capability. It shows force powers. There's citations to that too. They're about 0.75 to 3 micrometers across. They change in shape and size, which is true. They're not very large, but it's something called double membraned. They have a membrane on the outside, like a wall, and a membrane on the inside. Or maybe I should make this easier, like a skin, and an internal skin. And the way they're shaped is in back and forth swirls and undulations. They move up and down, lots of little curves and grooves. By doing this, you can expand the surface area inside the organelle, and you can generate more power in this way. Let's see. Now, beyond supplying cellular energy, they perform functions such as force sensitivity, cell differentiation, signaling, maintaining control of growth, cell growth, and the cell cycle, of course. And midichlorial biogenesis is regulated in conjunction with these cellular processes, the dysfunction of which can result in different sorters, failures. They put force failure in here. Oh my god. And let's start seeing what's in here. They're talking about erythrocytes and hepatocytes, the different blood cells. It seems pretty fine, no problems. Talking about the inner and outer membranes, the matrix, which exists. The matrix is the space inside of the cell. It's where all the goopy water is. Nothing's there. Things just float in between. And the cristae, the curves and grooves is moving up and down like little hands and little feet. And let's keep going here. So first, a search, identify midichlorians. They're looking at human midichlorian disease. They keep saying midichlorian too, which, come on. If you're a research paper, you can't forget this. That makes no sense. And they publish the results down here. The results are fascinating, by the way. And it's kind of weird because this is the results talking about the structure. There's not even much. The methods, you should explain carefully your methodology. It doesn't even make sense in this section. And the results being something anybody could look up, it doesn't make much sense either. And it's all very standard. He basically repeats himself here as well. There's an outer midichlorian membrane, an inner membrane space, and an inner midichlorial membrane. Okay, that's fine. There's a matrix here. They're talking more about the membranes, which are similar. The cell membrane and the mitochondria cell membrane are very similar to each other, but have differences. It has many integral membrane proteins called phosphorin. This is hilarious. Oh my, they have different enzymes, they have uptake functions. All this is fine. Elongation of fatty acids, epinephrine oxidation, tryptophan degradation. That's all fine. It sounds okay. I wouldn't know the specifics here. I've heard about a few of these. Oxidative phosphorylation, for example. That is part of the process of splitting oxygen to create ATP, which is ATP synthesis. That is all fine. Regulate passages of metabolites. Protein import, midichlorial fusion and fission. All these are normal things you'd expect in a mitochondria, not a midichlorian. There's no fewer than these. 151 different polypeptides. That's fine. About 1/5 of all the protein midichlorian is found in this locale. It's rich in a most curious phospholipid, cardiolipin, which is 4 fatty acids, not 2. And here we go. And if the inclusion of force in midichlorian didn't tip you off, some of these things will start to tip you off. Cardiolipin, which was originally found in Ewok cardiac tissue in 1942, is characteristic of the plasma membranes of midichlorians and bacteria. Its function may be to ensure the inner membrane is impermeable. The inner membrane lacks fluorescence, rendering it non-permeable to any molecules, in contrast to the permeable outer membrane. I don't know what lax fluorescence are. I don't know if those are real. And you can see the citations down here below. They publish more of their information. And the key functions here are force sensitivity again. No, that's not what they do. Anytime you see force sensitivity, that is not part of the functions. Here we go again. The production is the citric acid cycle, also referred to as the Kylorin cycle, after its discoverer. So I believe they mean Kylo Ren instead of Kylorin. It's a nice little nod of the new Star Wars. Its primary purpose is the genesis of ATP, and this is why there are so many force proteins. You need force proteins for those force powers. You got more of one type, you can do pushes, more of the other type, you do the talking, the choking, all that kind of stuff. Force usage births ATP from glucose with a yield of up to 13 times greater than free mutation. Array tip exits to the inner membrane via specialized protein and transverses the membrane via porins. How interesting. Pyruvate, which is a product of glycolysis, again, there's these spelling mistakes. Is ported. That's wrong. You should catch that. So it's imported through the membrane of the matrix. It can be used to produce NADH, acetyl-CoA, CO2, alternately carboxylated by pyruvate carboxylase to generate oxaloacetate. Now, this is pretty normal. There's no problems here. Notice we're getting a little bit down. The oxaloacetate levels in the citric acid cycle and is therefore an anikin-pleuritic reaction. Oh my god. How would you miss this? This is perfect. And here we're talking about the cycle of breaking down sugars in food into other molecules, which is used to generate the energy. This is fine. What's around it is goofy, though. See? The gluconeogenic highway, which turns lactate and deanimated alanine into glucose, triggered by high levels of glucagon and or epinephrine. Here, pioneering oxaloacetate to the mitochondria has no net anikin-pleuritic effect, as malate, another intermediate, exits the mitochondria to be converted into oxaloacetate in the cytosol, which is eventually morphed to glucose. This can be likened to the opposite of glycolysis. And they're including these cute little things in here. At some point, there's going to be a major drop, because they just copy something from Wikipedia and post it inside here. Now let's see, can we find anything else before we get to the major one? It's in all living cells, yes. Of course it would be. Look at this. Without the midichlorians, life couldn't exist, and we'd have no knowledge of the force. No knowledge of that. That should not be anywhere in a scientific or academic art. They continually speak to us, telling us the will of the force. Emerge clinically as myopathy, endocrinopathy, diabetes, systematic disorders. Oh my god. When you learn to quiet your mind, you will hear them speaking to you. And again, the mtDNA mutations can cause diseases such as Kylo Ren syndrome, Mella syndrome, and Lightsaber's hereditary optic neuropathy. Well, a lightsaber would cause some optic neuropathy if it was used the right way. These diseases are usually handed down by force-sensitive women to her children. Now, this is an inside joke because, oh my god, when you have kids, children do not inherit midichlorians, from their father. That's a very, very rare case. They inherit it from their mother. And if the mother has any mitochondrial DNA defects or abnormalities or diseases, it can mean that she may not be able to have children, or her children may have serious problems, because this is a serious problem. And this is where you get the idea of a three-parent baby. That the mother gives the egg, the DNA, the father gives his DNA, and then you have a different person, a different woman, I assume, give her mitochondria to replace the other mitochondria, and all three together can make a child. Now, whether or not that works is a matter of some debate, but this is what they are talking about when they pass it to her children. Because the zygous midichlorians and hence its mTNA are derived from the maternal ovum. Diseases similar to Kylo-Ren syndrome seem to be the result of large-scale mtDNA rearrangements. Point mutations in mtDNA are responsible for other diseases such as myoclonic epilepsy with ragged red fibers, Jar Jar syndrome, and again, lightsabers, hereditary, optic neuropathy. So ridiculous, oh my god. How was this accepted? Now here's more nuclear genetic mutations, Yoda's ataxia, and Wookiee's disease. Come on. Oh my god, how would you accept this? And here's more diseases. I don't know. I don't know if Barth syndrome is something. And there's also Binks disease. This stuff could be real. I just have no idea. Ah, here we go. This is where it's starting to get more goofy, and some things are being pulled directly off of a speech that we're going to get to. So, midichlorians mediated oxidative stress cause cardiomyopathy and type 2 diabetes, or diabetics. What they're referring to here is that sometimes you have oxidative stress inside of mitochondria. You have rogue reactive oxygen species. And this could cause cardiomyopathy, which I believe is destroying heart cells in certain diabetics. Here talking about more fatty acids being delivered to the heart in cardiomyocytes, which are the muscle cells in hearts. The oxidation of fatty acids in these cells increases. And here is the turn point where you should know this. This is not a scientific article. I'm going to clear my throat here. I'm going to get this all in one read. Did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? I thought not. It is not a story the Jedi would tell you. It was a Sith legend. Darth Plagueis was a Dark Lord. Darth Plagueis was a Dark Lord of the Sith, so powerful and so wise. He could use the Force to influence the midichlorians to create life. This process increases the number of reducing equivalents available to the midichlorial electron transport chain, and thus generates reactive oxygen species. That was him sneaking in the Darth Sidious story from the third Star Wars episode into a scientific journal. Oh my god. And it's still going, by the way. He just peppers it with fancier language to make it seem like you don't see it. After reactive oxygen species, ROS, which are oxygens which have had, I think they're electrons removed. So they'll be able to suck up more electrons, but they react too wildly, so it can create diseases. He had such knowledge of the dark side that he could even keep the ones he cared from dying. The dark side of the Force's pathway to many abilities, some considered to be unnatural. ROS uncouples the midichlorians by increasing uncoupling proteins, increasing the leakage of proteins to the adenine nucleotide translocate. He became so powerful, the only thing he was afraid of was losing this power, which eventually, of course, he did. Unfortunately, he taught his apprentice everything he knew, and his apprentice killed him in his sleep. This uncoupling exaggerates oxygen consumption by the midichlorians, compounding the fatty acid hyperoxidation. Ironic. He could save others from death, yet not himself. A vicious cycle of uncoupling arises, even as oxygen consumption increases. ATP synthesis cannot keep pace because the midichlorians are uncoupled. With less ATP available, a force energy deficit arises. Cardiac efficiency is reduced, and contractile functions is impaired. Oh, tragic. There needs to be more of this. That's too funny not to have. It's amazing you could have done that. And this, the cell's force power station, of course. And mitochondria are sometimes called powerhouses of the cell, but they're not force powerhouses. Oh, even better. If high energy dark side electrons leak. Oh my god, there's high mutation rates. Of course there are. Aging and oxidative high blood pressure proposed to be linked processes. This was a theory of aging developed later. A number of changes can occur to Death Stars during the aging process. This is just goofy now. It doesn't make any sense. Decreased enzyme throughput of the respiratory chain proteins has been spied in tissue from older Jedi. What? Yet even so, mutated mtDNA can only be found in about 1 in every 500 very old cells. Large deletions in the mitochondrial genome may, however, be the explanation for neuronal death via oxidative stress and Parkinson's disease. And that's supposed to be the end of this. However, there's more if you really go through this. So I'm going to assume some of these people are lots of references and names that you might recognize. I'm not exactly certain. But if you go through some of this stuff, it begins to get a little weird. So again, he specifically made these references. There's Mitochondria, more than just a powerhouse. We have Darwinian bioscience. Again, Mitochondria. Not sure, can't. Here we go. Okay, I'm recognizing some of these people. H.M. McBride. He's got to be somebody. M.S. Wasiak? Huh. I'm not sure who some of them are. Neil Campbell. This is a science fiction author. Oh my god. I'm assuming a lot of these names are references I'm not going to get. The mitochondrial organelle, of course. Weimerslage? I'm not sure. Let's see. Quantification of mitochondrial morphology in neurites of dopaminergic neurons using magic. You're using magic to look at supposedly mitochondria which aren't in neurons. This is so pathetic. How did this get in? I don't even know what rogating is. I have no idea. Why sinister buttocks are creeping into students' essays. The majority of the text in the current paper was rogated, I don't know, from Wikipedia. Mitochondrial apologies to the original authors of that page. There's so many good references in here. Oh my god, which other one's going to get here? Atomic bioscience, okay, cube. Giovinoni, I'm not sure what that is. Mitochondrial dysfunction, ischemia, reperfusion, and cardiac disorder. Gardner, don't recognize these people. Midichlorian psychotherapy in the future. From psychiatry. What does a psychiatry magazine have to do with how mitochondrial work? That makes no sense. Oh my, there's more references. I saw more stuff over here. More direct references now. Let's see, the origin of mitochondria, genomics perspective. Philosophical transactions of the Galactic Imperial Society. O.W. Kenobi, otherwise known as Obi-Wan. L. Skywalker. I wonder who L. Skywalker could be. Profiling of the human heart and mitochondrial genome. Okay, nice. Throw in some of the Chinese names, too. I wonder if these people are actual... I have no idea who they could be. There's a lot of research from China, so if you throw them in, it looks like I have lots of international research, too. Throw in some European names. It looks very authentic. Okay, most of this is fine except for the mitochondrial part, I should say. Let's see. Yeah, nothing much different there. I swear I'm going to miss something and it's going to annoy me. I'm going to be so annoyed by it. I throw in a German study. Let's see. Seebende. Über die Spermatogenes Arc-Anal Physio from 1890. Oh my god, it's from 1898. Why would you include that? Ah, here we go. S. Palpatine. Powerhouse of the cell. I wonder if these are German jokes. I'd miss the German jokes. H. Solo. F. Martin. Hydrogen, as part of that's fine. The origins of sex. 3 billion years of genetic recombination. Ah, they slipped it in. Null Coruscant. The capital city of the Galactic Republic. Oh my. Dun, 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 and most of this is fine. Some of the names are interesting. Oh my god. There's another cute little thing at the end. Oh, that's too bad. I was hoping for a good ending. Oh my god, this is so ridiculous. I just say, congratulations on making this. I cannot believe 4 different papers accepted it. That's ridiculous. But this entire thing is hilarious. If you understand any bit of cell biology, so many things here make no sense. It's just overly goofy. You just pepper in smart-sounding things with actual definitions, and then you take away some words or put in complete nonsense. It's amazing. Thank you, Neuroskeptic, for making this. It has made my life better as a result. And thank you for a credit to science and proving that some people